I've been asked to start off by talking a little bit about where we are today and how we got here. For me, this story goes back about 25 years when in private practice I've been representing people who have been terminated from their employment because of the way they express their gender identity or expression. They had transitioned on a job and were fired. In 2000, as you heard in the introduction, I filed a petition with the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities, and they unanimously ruled in response to that petition that existing Connecticut law, which prohibits discrimination based on sex, includes gender identity and expression, which is in fact the way most current Title VII cases on the federal scene have been ruled, whether it's the Ninth Circuit or the Sixth Circuit and lots of district courts. What we're trying to accomplish with this bill is to take what is now Connecticut law and make sure that employers and service providers know about it. You know, I'm a lawyer, so I thought, wow, I got this decision, now everything is going to change. In some ways it did. Most employers, when they are told what the state of the law is, respond appropriately. Many employers already understand how important it is that they preserve the talent within their organization, that they respond to the community of customers out there. That includes people like myself and like many of you in the room today, and many people across the state. In 2005, the coalition, which had a few years prior to that, helped successfully pass a hate crimes bill, which included gender identity expression, started talking about whether we should try to codify the decision that the CHRO had come out with in 2000. And we decided that it was important and drafted up some legislation, presented it in 2006. In 2007, we appeared before 4 separate committees. We had very high votes in favor of the legislation. It passed the Senate by a very wide margin, but basically was filibustered in the House. And we are back. This year we didn't do quite as well, but we're not going away until this bill passes, whether it's this session or the next session or the session after that. We'll be back every year until this thing passes. I'd like to now introduce Jennifer Levi, who is the director of the Transgender Rights Project with GLAAD, the Gay, Lesbian Advocates and Defenders. She works on a wide range of cases defending the civil rights and civil liberties of gay men, lesbians, and transgender people. She's co-counsel of the Goodridge versus Department of Public Health case, successfully representing 7 same-sex couples denied the right to marry in Massachusetts. She was lead counsel in dozens of cases. Let's just leave it at that. I know she participated with me on drafting the federal end of legislation that includes gender identity expression. A woman I have great respect for, Jennifer Levi.
I just wanted to thank some legislators who've been able to tear some time out of their day to be here, and Representative Gary Fuller Winfield, who I believe stepped back out of the room, but Matt Lesser, I'd love to
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming up here and talking about this important issue. I think there are a lot of people who say up in the legislature that our focus this year should be about one thing only, which is the budget. And I think they're dead wrong. As we're looking around, as we see people lose their jobs, I think we got to focus on eliminating whatever barriers still exist. And anything we can do to make it easier for qualified people to get jobs, find housing, is something that we need to do. And I think this economy underscores that need. As it's more difficult for people in this state to find jobs, we start looking at these barriers that have existed for decades. Barriers that prevent people from getting quality jobs. And I think this is a simple, the Gender Identity and Expressions Bill is a simple, no-cost way of helping reduce the hardship of this economy on families and individuals in the state of Connecticut. So I'm proud to be here, I'm proud to support it. If we don't get it passed this year, we will soon. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and thank you for taking the trip out to Hartford. I'm from Middletown, represent Middlefield and Durham as well. Certainly support that.
Holder Winfield, I'm sorry, I'm not a public speaker. I'm nervous as all get out, so I apologize for that. Senator Holder Winfield, thank you very much.
It's okay, everybody messes up my name. So, my name is Gary Holder Winfield. I'm the representative from New Haven, the 94th District. And the bill that we're discussing, I think, is an important bill. I actually wish it had come out in committee on Friday, but some people chose to talk everything to death. To me, this is really simple. It's nice that we're talking about what happens in these economic times, but it's extremely simple. And it boils down to, do you or do you not choose to discriminate against people? That's what it boils down to. There's nothing more. There's nothing more to even ask. It's not about your religious views. It's not about your views of how society. It's about, do you want to discriminate against people or not? And whenever we get to vote on this thing, that is the question that we will all be answering with our votes. And so I'm on your side with this because I choose not to discriminate against people because it's wrong and because my people have had a history in this country of being discriminated against. And it would make no sense for me to stand up and say, you shouldn't discriminate against me. But those people who I'm uncomfortable with, you can discriminate against them. And some people have said to me, well, why are you always on the agenda of these people? It's not these people. These are our neighbors, our friends, people we've known. These are human beings. And so as my colleague, Representative Les, I don't have much to say. I just thought that I should come and let you know that even though sometimes it may not seem that way, there are those of us who stand with you, and we'll go down with you if we have to, because I think it's important. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say quickly before you leave the room, Representative Holder Winfield, that anyone that wasn't at the hearing, Representative Holder Winfield was one of the individuals on the committee who I could tell most deeply understood the importance of this bill. So I am personally grateful for your answering many of the difficult questions that were asked of some of the individuals that testified. So thank you very much, and thanks for being here this morning. So thank you to Rachel for the introduction, and I want to talk a little bit about what this bill means technically and legally, but before I do, we have a 10-minute video that really speaks for itself, but provides the human side to this story. So can we start that?
Good morning. That was really a moving video, and thank you for sharing it. Welcome, everyone. Good luck today on your going around and talking to legislators, is that correct? And helping them understand some of the challenges that you face with discrimination. I brought, on behalf of my wife, Tracy Wilson, all these petitions from Conard High School students and teachers. This has been sort of a new journey for us, and just this year, she's also new to taking over the Gay Straight Alliance. She has been helping a student who is transitioning, and she never anticipated in her life that this would be a role that she'd be playing, but she sees the struggle of this individual student who expressed that through his whole high school career, he's a senior, he had never had an interaction with another student at his high school until, I get teary thinking of it, those of you who know me, I get teary easily. This year at True Colors, he went and he brought an outfit, and he changed into the outfit and transitioned into a woman for the first time ever publicly. And the other students from Conard High School, after he came out in his new outfit, said, "Hey, you look great!" and said, "Hey, you want to go down to this workshop?" And so virtually the first interaction he had with students from his high school was as a woman, as who he believes and feels he is. And I just thought this was so moving for Tracy when she told the story to me. And now this kid, sort of 3 or 4 weeks later, True Colors just happened, is really feeling a part of the Gay Straight Alliance and selling T-shirts. And it's so fascinating that now he feels comfortable as he's able to be who he or she. I'm sorry, I'm still getting it down. So I also think that the workplace discrimination is so vital because the whole gay rights movement, really, it's only when people feel protected in their workplace that they can be who they really are, and then people who know them as who they really are can accept them. And that's really where it starts, is I believe it starts with people feeling safe in their job and safe making their livelihood. So I'm honored to be here, and I wish you the best, and I promise to be there with you as we fight to end workplace discrimination. And as the bill moves forward, I will fight any amendments that try to make exceptions. So I don't know who's delivering them to Governor Rao, but I'll hand them over. And thank you again for coming. And feel free to call me if you have questions or concerns, or I can help you in any way. Thank you.
So I'll be candid. This has been a rough session, right? But the session isn't over, and I am grateful for everyone who is in this room, for the hard work, for the dedication, and for the commitment that you've shown to getting this bill passed into law. This is not a hard bill to understand, right? This is a simple and basic bill that prohibits discrimination on the basis of gender identity or expression, right? Gender identity being that internalized, felt sense of who we are as male or female, and expression, the way we manifest that by the ways that we live our lives. I went to visit, I have a 6-year-old son, he's in kindergarten. I went to his lunchroom to join the kids for lunch. And I sat down at the table, and the 5-year-old girl that sits next to him said, "That's really nice that your dad came to visit." And my son said, "That's not my dad, that's my mom." And his friend said, "That must be your dad because he looks like a man." And my son said, "That's my mom, and she's a girl who looks like a boy." And my son followed it up by saying, "And you know, there are boys who look like girls too." And his friend said, "Oh." And that was the end of the conversation. These are not complicated issues. They are simple for children, and they are becoming simpler for adults and grown-ups. And it's all of our jobs to be out there, to tell the stories of our lives and the ways in which this bill intersects with our personal and daily lives. Because what is a surprise to people is how centrally our gender identity or expression can interfere with our employment, our access to public accommodations, the ways we're treated in banks, when we try to rent apartments. And there was a member of the Judiciary Committee that asked about whether or not we have access to cell phone usage, and the truth of the matter is that sometimes we don't. That sometimes people look at us and feel, right, in the words of Enoch Page, so disturbed by that difference that they're willing to deny us some of the most basic services in our community. And all we're asking by having this bill passed is equal treatment, by dignity, and by safety for our lives. And all that the challenges of this legislation have done is to cause me to rededicate and recommit myself to getting this bill passed. And I know that's true for each and every one of you out there. So I appreciate your being here. I say have fun today. Go talk to your representatives. Go talk to your senators. Tell them about your lives. Tell them about your children. Tell them about your families. Tell them about your friends. Because that's what they need to hear. And they'll get it. I know they'll get it. Right? What we're seeing is strengthened opposition by a very narrow segment on the other side that doesn't want anyone to get it for anyone. Right? It's not just about us. It's about everybody else too. And so what we've seen is organizing at the national level that's coming in to Connecticut, right? In order to bring those messages against us, and we know that won't work, right? We know that won't work because we're going to be here, we're going to continue to be here, we're going to come back every legislative session until this thing is passed. And the last thing I want to say is, it ain't over till it's over, and that includes this legislative session, okay? There's lots of work to do, and there's lots of possible ways to get this bill passed, so thank you all for being here. And I'm happy to introduce Jerry Merlisa-Ganning, who is the director of the Connecticut Transgender Advocacy Coalition and has been a tremendous vocal and out supporter on this issue for many, many years. Thank you.
Pretty tough act to follow. Jennifer's very powerful, Rachel's great. And it's really wonderful to be sort of just in the comradeship of those people as well as everyone here. Hopefully you can all hear me. If you can't, let me know. But I guess what I want to come from is this is always a struggle. Every year people say, well, why didn't we get the legislation passed? And I hear the pain, I hear the heartache, and I understand it because I feel it too. But legislation like this doesn't pass in a day, it doesn't pass in a year. It takes time. We have to move the hearts and minds of people. And one thing you always find is there's always 20% who will always be against you. There's always 20% who will always be for you. And it's the other 60% that we have to work and we need to move. And that's true in any civil rights, any legislative movement that we do, or equality movement. It is important. And it's interesting because I've been in this struggle for a long time, and I remember in the 90s I created It's Time Connecticut, which was part of It's Time America. It was a grassroots trans organization about advocacy. And because I was outraged that we had no rights. And it was a struggle. I remember back in the late 90s, the trans community was asked to lead the Pride Parade in Connecticut. And that was an honor. It was an honor that we could be out and we could be visible. And I remember my organization, we made a banner, and unfortunately on that day we only had 3 people that were at the front of that pride line. And understandably, it wasn't that there were only 3 trans people in this city. It was simply because people were afraid. They were afraid of being discriminated, afraid of losing their jobs, just like we saw with gay and lesbians when they would come out and talk and they would immediately lose their jobs. Yet, as the years went on, we see more and more people come out. And part of my organization and part of a lot of the organizations who work with us in our community work to sort of help us achieve equality. We passed a hate crime legislation. We passed that in 2 years. It was very successful. And we now are working on the gender identity or expression within the non-discrimination clauses. And it's going to take time. It won't happen overnight. This is a tough year because this is a tough year for everyone economically. But that does not mean that this legislation is not vitally important. And that's what we're here to do. Every one of us here is to work and to be visible. And it's hard. It is wonderful to see each year the number of people here is growing and growing. We need to be, it's hard, but we need to be out, we need to be proud, and we need to be visible. And we need our allies with us, and our allies are all here, and the parents. I remember a while back, people may remember, Governor Rowland refused to sign an inclusive proclamation. It was always for Pride Day, gay and lesbian Pride Day. And we did an action. And we said, we're mad as hell, we're not going to take this anymore. We had 20 organizations sign up to that action. And when I talked to Benjamin Alejandro, who was the proclamation specialist that year, he said the governor decided that gay and lesbian was inclusive enough. And my comment was, well, I didn't recognize the governor was a gay man and understood our community. Because most of our community, most of our allies are saying it has to be inclusive. And it's funny, we did an action, and we ended up getting a meeting with Dean Pagani, who was the chief of staff. And we had the parents there. We had Becky and John Gleason from PFLAG. We had Comp by Nation there, because they wouldn't also include bisexuals, and I was there. And I know Becky and John talked from their heart about parents and the impact on children. And what happened is the next day, I will never forget, going up to the 3rd, 4th floor in the Capitol and picking up a proclamation that said, we are pronouncing lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and intersex day, Pride Day. And that was a big accomplishment. Small crack, which all we can do is keep cracking the door. But as everyone said, we're not going away. And we are growing. Trans people is not 3 people, it is not 5 people. Many of us are within this community, and many of us are now coming out through the support of our families, through the support of our friends, and through what occurs and takes within our hearts. So I just want to applaud every single one of you for being here. And it's a struggle. We are going to, legislative bills pass in many different ways. Simply because it didn't make it through the judiciary does not mean a bill's dead. It does not mean this issue's dead. It does not mean that we're dead. This is a live issue, and it will pass. And if it doesn't pass this year, it will pass, because it is important. It is not right to discriminate any group. And you see from the representatives, we have many allies. And we may have a small percentage who want to work against us, but that's always the case in life. And we need to be strong, we need to be brave, and we will win, and we will survive. Thank you. What I'd like to do is ask some parents to please come up and speak. And so they're going to come over here. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Don Arsenal. When I wake up in the morning, I don't think of myself as a parent of a transgender or gender variant or gender non-conforming child. I think of myself as a parent and of my child as a child. And when I was driving up here, the thought came to me that all of us in this room is somebody's child, and all of us in this room are not just children of our parents, we're children of our communities, we're children of the state of Connecticut, we're children of the United States. And we've been brought up to believe that we can be anything that we want to be. Sometimes I have to hesitate before I turn to my daughter and say that, because I might have to say, except you can't be who you are. And I know that when certain circumstances and situations were rectified or changed so that my daughter wasn't facing the daily harassment that she faced, or was not in combat mode every time she went into a classroom, that she was able to flourish, you know, and she was able to do better in school and to feel comfortable. And, You know, whether my daughter's wearing makeup or not wearing makeup, wearing a potato sack or a pair of blue jeans, that's still the same kid. And she still has the same potential, just as everybody in this room has the same potential to be somebody who can give back to society. Whether it's here lobbying and advocating so that everybody has the same rights that they have, or whether it's helping the neighbor down the street or whatever. When people feel so uncomfortable that they have to hide or not go out or not be themselves, we're doing society and ourselves a disservice. I wonder how many people in the past, how many great inventions or advocates or legislators haven't made it to the forefront because of the limitations that how they express themselves or identify, they felt, not that they felt, that society put on them. Because when all of this first came to the forefront with my child, and all of a sudden there was a hospital stay or a therapy or a call to the school, I was a little bit baffled because I didn't think my child had problems. And as we've worked through it, I've begun to realize my daughter doesn't have problems. The problems are the perceptions of other people and the way that she's treated because of the way she does identify herself. So everybody, one last thing I'd like to say is I attended the True Colors Conference too. And I've been around the block for many years. I was on the streets of LA years and years ago. I met people whose gender was not conforming to society. Kids who said they would run out of their own towns. And I was at that True Colors Conference, and I'll tell you something. That was one of the greatest privileges of my life. I never saw so many well-behaved people in one place at the same time. It was astounding. Young people who I didn't know from anywhere would walk up to me and sit down and talk for a half an hour about their lives, about myself, my daughter's lives. It was astounding. These are the people that have gifts and skills and potential that need to flourish in America, because the tougher the times are, economic and whatever, the more people we need to pitch in. Let's give them a chance to pitch in and be who they are. Thanks.
Thank you, Dawn and Donna. I'm really glad to be back here again on Lobby Day, and because it's been so hard for me to go from, following that line where we respect other people's privacy in their lives and talk about your personal stories, sticking with my script. So I just wanted to say that parents have a very unique and important role playing in any child's life. And it's a unique and especially challenging role for a parent of someone who is questioning their gender and dealing with the overwhelming need to resolve this dilemma of feeling comfortable in their body. There may be years of encouragement, coaxing, pushing, pleading, followed by counseling, arguing, begging, and denying. There are feelings of shame and embarrassment, confusion, and deceit. There are family members, relatives, friends, neighbors, school personnel, colleagues, fellow workers, and even legislators to deal with. Yet, this is just the parent role, a drop in the bucket compared to what children go through. Not many of us parents make it to the podium to speak. We are most times a sorry lot. The part that makes transitioning especially painful and difficult. So it is vital for me to speak today about my experience. I was one of 6 children growing up in a strict Catholic family. I went through Catholic grammar school and high school, along with all of my brothers and sisters. At the age of 17, I entered the convent to become a Sister of Mercy. I spent 7 months there trying to make that work. It was a deep spiritual experience that has lasted a lifetime, but it was not my path. I went on to Catholic college, married, and had 2 children. We carried on the family tradition of sacrificing to send the kids to St. Pat's and St. Bernard's. The reason I mention all of this is because it was my faith that helped me through. And I know that there are a lot of people who have trouble with this. So I wanted to say that it was my faith that taught me to turn things over to the highest power, to believe and to trust and to love. And it was through my faith that I learned to listen and to love my children unconditionally. And it was my faith that gives me the strength to be here today. And it's because of my faith that I ask legislators to pass the anti-discrimination bill. My family has been blessed with a charming, happy, well-adjusted, and I can't believe I'm saying that, because it's been such a struggle, but he's a sincere transgender son who went through what seemed like insurmountable odds to become a powerful human rights activist and lawyer. So I look around this room today, and you will see many people with the same potential and powerful gifts who ask that we afford them the rights to make the most of their life in every community in our great state. So today is the day to make this happen. Thank you.
I'm a parent of a transgender son, and I wasn't really, I don't have anything written to read today, but I just want to briefly say, first of all, I'm using my name, that's not my full name, in my role in any capacity as an advocate for trans rights, LGBT rights, as an ally. I am no longer finding it safe to use my real name because that outs my son. I have an unusual last name, and he needs to be safe, and he needs to live stealth. And so anytime my name's in print, anytime I'm at a press conference or any place public and speak about his role, his life, his journey, and mine, that outs him, and the World Wide Web is a pretty big thing, so no matter where he is, he's a Google one stroke away. So I don't have the right to out him to his employers or to creditors or his friends even. He's very happy. He has a wonderful life now. He's married to a wonderful woman, and his life would look simple. In hindsight, it wasn't. It was complicated and a difficult journey for him. And I've been helped in my adjustment through all of that by PFLAG, friends here at PFLAG, by so many colleagues and friends and so many wonderful trans people in the community. And so my point is, I don't feel very articulate about this anymore because it's just a freaking no-brainer. I just... It's just about discrimination. It should be so simple. I don't understand the opposition's reasons for trying to block this. It's just plain and simple, and I have nothing new to add. The speech of Jennifer Levy was just so inspiring. And so I go up and down. Sometimes I'm really a fighter and go-getter and kill them, and I'm just going to be there. And other times I feel despondent and depressed. And like Jerry Marie said, you know, I wrote her a big email last year and said, how do you still stay so upbeat? Because last year she sent emails out when this was defeated, and you know, come on, we're going to do it again next year. And I was just shut up. This isn't going to happen. You know, I just can't see how she hangs in there all the time. And I was feeling really depressed. Plus, you should see me on Transgender Day of Remembrance every year on November 20th, isn't it? every time I read the name of a person that was killed, I just turn into a blubbering fool, you know. It kills me to think of the hate crimes, the violence, the terrible things that have to happen because we just don't understand and accept each other, all for just who we are. I mean, it is just plain and simple. So I guess I'll just close by saying that I like the motto. I have this sign in my house. It just says, "There is no alternative to being yourself." Let's let everybody be themselves and celebrate who we are.
What the rest of you in the room don't know is that these two went off the reservation. I was supposed to be doing the introductions, have a little comment after each speaker. I've decided that I'm grateful because I couldn't, you know, despite everything I wrote down after each one of those pieces, I can't come close to topping. And I hate that. I'd like to introduce Melissa first from Brigham Ingelheim. She has an MS in immunology and microbiology from New York Medical College and joined Brigham Ingelheim in 2001 as a scientist in research and development. In 2006, she transferred to the medical department as a clinical trial data manager, and as a member of the clinical team, she's responsible for the structure of trial database and accuracy of that database. She is also the founder of what corporate America calls employee resource groups, and the employee resource group at Brigham Ingelheim Working with Pride. They're a resource for the corporation to ensure that their policies, practices, and benefits are aligned with the company's goals and are inclusive of the entire LGBT community.
So for us, it's really a business imperative. It's not just about doing the right thing. It is definitely the right thing to do. As everyone says, we shouldn't discriminate against anyone. But for us, it's a business imperative. We want to be able to recruit top talent regardless of who they are. People who think outside the box are especially valuable to us. We have a culture where we try to foster innovation, and you can't foster innovation if you conform to societal norms and can't think outside the box. And if you can't bring your whole self to work, you can't be an innovative and creative and wonderful person that is productive for us at least 8 hours a day. For us, it's not about changing people's beliefs. It's about changing people's behaviors, making sure everyone is treated with respect at work. It's a business. It's ultimately about making money for the company, and we want to make sure that everyone feels valued, respected, and is able to do their best work every day, regardless of who works next to them. A few years back, we changed our non-discrimination policy when it occurred to us that we did not have gender identity expression in our non-discrimination policy. For us, a lot of our policies that were changed in the past 6 years or so were mainly because the people who worked in human resources or whatever, we just didn't even realize that some people weren't included. And as we realized that people were not included, it was really a no-brainer, as people mentioned. We don't want to discriminate against anyone. So as we realized that even though we had domestic partner benefits, something like COBRA was not automatically extended. So we changed that. And as soon as things would come to our attention, we changed it. And our director of diversity, Nancy DiDia, was all ready to go and had a case planned to explain why we need to add gender identity and expression to our non-discrimination policy. And she went in and she mentioned that this was something we didn't have and we needed, and they just said, okay, fix it. So don't you want to hear why? I have this justification plan. No, do it. We're missing it, do it. So I'm very lucky to work for a company that is so loyal to their employees, and in turn, the employees are loyal to BI. And for us, that's fantastic, especially in this market. You know, there's a lot of people out there now looking for jobs. Check us out. We have our website, careers.monster.com. We want to be able to recruit the top talent, no matter who they are. We've received a 100% score on the Corporate Equality Index with the Human Rights Campaign for the past 2 years, which are the only 2 years that we applied, so we're very proud of that. We've also realized that as we go to recruitment events and career fairs, the number one thing that everyone asks, anyone who comes to our booth, they ask about our environmental policies, if we're green, and they ask if our LGBT policies and benefits, if we're inclusive. Those are two things regardless of whether or not people are LGBT, of whether or not they drive a hybrid car. They want to know that our company cares about the society that we exist in and the people around us. We want to be a valuable commodity to the community, and we want to be able to drive our business forward. Allowing people to be productive at work, to feel valued and respected, be able to earn a paycheck so they can sustain their lives outside of work, to have work-life balance. These are all things that not only drive corporations forward, and they drive society forward. If you can be happy at work and bring home your paycheck and pay for the food on your table and the roof over your head and put your children through school, it helps us and it helps the community. So those are all things that are very important to us. We also want everyone to know that as a company, we have signed the Business Coalition. We've joined the Business Coalition to support ENDA, and we've also joined the Business Coalition to support benefits tax equity. We believe these are very important issues that affect all of us again and would drive society forward. Ultimately, for us, it's really about fostering an environment of inclusion. Everyone should feel included and valued, and great ideas are great ideas. Good work is good work, and we don't really care where it comes from.
I never would have believed when I was in college a very long time ago in the 70s that corporate America would lead the way on employee socialism. And it's really only in this century. We've gone from virtually 0 corporations to 175 Fortune 500 companies that include gender identity expression in their internal HR policies, which is amazing. And more every year because they get it. It's a business case. It's also the right thing to do. So I get to speak and say a few words after at least once